Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations for New Comic Book Day, like we do every week.
Yeah.
And this, I had so much fun reading this week. And I know that we're trying to sell comic books, so, people can probably assume that, we're trying really hard to promote stuff. But every week I'm impressed with what's going on in comics. And this was one of those weeks where it hit. There were the nostalgia books. There were definitely superhero books. And those are kind of what people think of, like, robots and superheroes and that kind of stuff. But there were also some indie things that were really interesting and I thought kind of pushed the envelope of some stuff. So what did you think about this week?
So I thought this week was great. Like if you could see like how the conversation was going like a couple minutes ago, like we were really struggling to like narrow it down to like what we were going to pick today, because there's so much stuff. The fact that like Patrick was almost more pushing for an X-Men book this week than me tells you how packed it was.
I love Al Ewing's writing right now. So good.
But we didn't pick that. We did pick an X-Men book. We'll get to that.
Yes.
But we do have some other returning books here. My pick this week was Void Rivals issue 3. On a related note, we have second printings of issue 1, and we just got second printings of issue 2 because both sold out like crazy. So come and get those, and come and get issue 3 before it probably does the same thing.
It's been so good. And, all three of the books this week, we were jumbling around. What's going to be, who's going to be getting
I feel like any of the three of these, one of us could have picked, and obviously one of them is a consensus pick.
Yeah.
But
really, they're all three consensus picks.
Really, yeah. But so Void Rivals issue 3 kind of picks up where we left off last time, meeting what I feel is a fairly deep cut, like, cartoon reference for Transformers.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, this is a Transformers related thing.
Yes.
And this issue definitely gets into that some more, because there's another surprise cameo in here that's, I'd say, less of a deep cut, but a lot bigger implications from that thing showing up. I mean, there's so many like references in here, but like in a way that like you don't have to like know a whole lot about Transformers or anything. Like it doesn't like kind of, it's not those moments and stuff where it's just like, oh, you're supposed to like stop and stare and like clap, like, oh, I know this thing. like it's stuff that's, if you know what it is, it's super cool to see it, but it doesn't like slow down the story at all. In fact, a lot of times it adds to it in here. And if you don't want to know what it is, it's just like, oh, this is a cool thing. I want to learn more about it.
Yeah, and Kirkman is doing such a good job on this book, because I am genuinely interested in the narrative of these two main characters. And I'm not entirely sure that other than bumping into things from the Transformers universes, the different, from different media, that this is really all that Transformers related.
Yeah,
it's a great standalone story all on its own.
Especially with where it looks like it's going from this issue into the next one, where, something happens at the end of this, and like I kind of saw it coming, but in a way where it's just like, ooh, okay, what happens next? Because it's just like, things get complicated in a very fun way.
Yeah.
But
very cool.
It's fun. Like the characters that they run into, the way they leave off of things that definitely sets up potential like future stuff. Because one of them they end on pretty good terms with. One of them not so much.
Yep.
And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. Also, as we keep mentioning it being a Transformers thing, this issue has the first like actual kind of like preview pages of the new Transformers comic coming this October from Danny Warren Johnson, and to no one's like surprise, it looks great. Shocker, Danny Warren Johnson draws something and it looks stellar. But we're super excited for it. We've already got a bunch of people signing up for it, so definitely make sure if you're interested that you get it put down, because I would not be surprised if what we do get for shelf copies goes like that.
Yes. Use your account on the app to sign up for this book, or contact us and let us get you signed up for it.
Or stop in and buy more Void Rivals to get transformed.
It's going to be hot. And I think, too, it's also going to be one of those books where if you're a Kirkman fan, the way that he writes, it'll be Transformers flavored, but it's still going to be a Kirkman book. So if you're a Kirkman fan, I think it's still gonna be good for you. And if you're a Daniel Warren Johnson fan, I think it's still going to be good for you too.
One of the things I expect from it, because I've been getting this from here, is like it's very like Kirkman has been very public about like he wants us to feel like it's like this lost 80s cartoon that you definitely could have seen back then, and like it does, but not in a way that feels dated. Like it feels like a modern revamp of an existing like 80s thing. Like the way things look, they just have this like very like toyetic feel.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, the whole vibe of it all is great.
Yeah, it's hitting on all cylinders for me.
Speaking of hitting on all cylinders.
So, Kelly Thompson's new book, The Cull, #1, is my pick. And I know that we had a preview for this in another
I think it was World Tree.
Oh, that's right, World Tree.
And I think my reaction to the video to when you showed me was like, oh.
Yeah, so we've been struggling with how to pronounce the artist's name. Mattia de Eunice?
I'm going to say that.
Yeah. We'll go with it.
Yeah. But
this book is
gorgeous.
Sometimes that really highly produced kind of airbrushed painted kind of thing doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
This absolutely does. The characters' eyes are so lifelike and haunting.
Their expressions are just
the positioning of their their limbs and their movement and stuff. It creates this really realistic vibe that you totally get sucked into the story. And the gist of the setup for this book is that they're on location for what seems to be some sort of filming.
Yeah,
shoot.
they're like some kind of like student film thing they're working on.
Yeah, so they're on a beach really early in the morning, so it's dark and they're walking around on the beach. And the aesthetic of it just pulled me in. Well, it was great.
And that's the thing, because like we're talking about how like gorgeous the art is, and like the fact that a lot of this issue is honestly people just like walking and talking, and yet it's still probably one of the best looking books on the stand today, is like it tells you how good it is. And considering like where it's teasing everything's going, like it's probably just going to keep looking even better and better each issue.
It was so great. And the subtlety and the storytelling of introducing the characters. I'll be honest, I was a little confused about who was whom and what their relationship to each other and their families. It's kind of one of those things where it really gives you that vibe of when you wake up really early in the morning and you're getting ready to leave your house, you could feel that.
Yeah. And even as like the issue goes, because it's definitely like it's one of those where you're getting dropped into these people's lives. Like they're all in the middle of like a lot of like heavy stuff going down. But like as you're going, it's like kind of piecing together, and you're already like you're saying, it's that feeling of like waking up and like you're like what you've got to do today is like coalescing around you, like who you've got to like talk to, who you're going to interact with. Like
it was so good, and you can feel the connection between these people, even though they're not explicitly drawing out these connections. They're just kind of letting the story happen. You feel like you're just kind of an observer of real life. There's no, this is so-and-so and this is so-and-so. And, a description of who these people are or what's going on. And then stuff goes bonkers.
Yeah, and like, because like, without getting too much spoilers, like the cold open kind of like lets you know that things are going to get like weird real quick.
Yeah.
But most of the issue is not spending its time on that. It's kind of getting you to like where that's going to start happening. So like, it's like, oh, you understand the stakes, and then you understand like the character, so then that just makes the stakes that you've already seen like get that much higher.
And there again, that kind of, I'm guessing that it's a glimpse into the future,
something like that. It looks like.
The art in that was beautiful and disturbing at the same time. It's kind of one of those things where nature can be terrifying.
Yeah,
and so it really pulled off a very realistic animal kingdom kind of representation that is horrifying.
Yeah. And like, and one of the other things we were talking about, like how like kind of how they interact with each other, kind of their group dynamic, it very much reminded me of a lot of those like 80s like kind of coming of age films. Like these characters are a bit like older, they're a bit more like kind of like teenagers, young adult age, but like it's still very much that vibe of like they're all kind of like trying to find themselves and like dealing with like growing up and everything. And I don't know. I mean, there's a reason those are still. Like Stranger Things is like one of the most popular things out there for like close to a decade now.
Yeah, it does that great thing of they're trying to be there and support each other, but they're all going through their own things, and everybody's trying to hold themselves up while hold everybody else up. And yeah, I was just thoroughly impressed with this book, and I know that it had a lot of buzz coming in, and we had a number of people who subscribed to it ahead of time, and it met all my expectations. All right, well, we've been gushing and gushing and gushing. What is our consensus pick? What could possibly have been more on the same wavelength for us than these two books?
I mean, I feel like they're all pretty equal, but the answer is Alpha Flight #1.
Yes.
Yeah. But so, again, as most of the picks I've been doing recently, this is part of the current Fall of X storyline that all the X-Men books are here, like doing. We've got a bunch of other X-Men books in this week. They're all also great. Like we were talking about, X-Men Red almost made it up here. But Alpha Flight, we were talking about like they're one of those teams where like everyone kind of knows them, but they're also just kind of like one of those teams that like never really gets like outside of maybe like the original series from the 80s, never gets this like spotlight. Yeah,
they show up in everybody else's book at some point.
Yeah, and a lot of times honestly to get like jobbed out. So
yeah, pretty much. And I think people are pretty familiar. Puck, is kind of he's had a lot of interactions with Wolverine and stuff in the past.
He was in Ewing's Immortal Hulk a lot.
Yep, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yep. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, which actually I think Shaman was in there a bit too early on.
But, yeah. They were in there with Leonard, right? Yep.
Yeah, but no. So this is as I've kind of gotten into before. There was a big brouhaha at the most recent Hellfire Gala. All the mutants on Earth have either been like shoved through a portal, or they're being gathered up to be sent to Mars, or worse. Yeah. And so to go along with that, the Canadian government has reinstated Alpha Flight as their like premier superhero team to like track down and catch any mutants that are like trying to go under the radar.
So, as I was reading this, I was conflicted because I feel like, I have a passing knowledge of Alpha Flight, but I feel like I know this core group of characters that are pictured on the cover here enough to know that they're good people, right?
Yeah.
Like so the way that it's being set up, that the team is needed, and then that press conference.
Yeah.
The press conference made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is definitely like what it's like. And that's the thing, like this issue is like trying to drive home like how uncomfortable it is, the notion of these guys. Because it points out, and they themselves point out to each other, that there have been a lot of mutants on Alpha Flight. Like a lot of their friends, like
pretty much half the team at different points.
In fact, some of the other characters we run into in this, Aurora and Northstar, like they are some of the most prominent Alpha Flight members, and they're mutants, and they do not care for the current status quo.
No, they are definitely butting heads with the Canadian government and their stance on mutants, and that puts the current roster of government-sanctioned Alpha Flight in the crosshairs with them. So conflict is happening, and who's right, who's wrong? The moral judgments here are really gray, and I thought that it worked out really well. I really liked the art. It was kind of reminiscent to me of that 80s house style Marvel, but in a good like more updated kind of way.
And if I remember correctly, actually, Goldlewinski, he's actually been the artist on Brisson's work on Batman Incorporated over at DC. So like and you can feel that like they've got like a good wavelength together. They've worked together before.
Yeah. Yep. And I've been really enjoying Ed Brisson picking up the whole Predator wing of Marvel. So that's one of the reasons that I picked up this book, because like I said, I've never done a deep dive on Alpha Flight, so they're an interesting team to me. But Ed Brisson had me sold, and boy, am I glad that I picked it up, because it was really good.
And like it's doing that thing I kind of mentioned with Void Rivals, where it's like it's giving you like these bits of like, if you are an Alpha Flight fan, like you're getting to see like these characters get referenced, or these characters kind of show up in like a way that like it feels like natural and like hey, it's good to see these people.
Yep.
And maybe not for the people on the page, it's good to see them, but they're there.
Yeah.
But then also, if you like, you're like us, we're like still like, we're kind of like fresh off a flight, like it doesn't feel like we're being bogged down with anything.
No, and the one character that I really didn't know very well, they did kind of a background bio page for, so that worked out really well too. Yeah. Well, it's an excellent week to get in here and pick comics. This is just 3 of the books that we both agreed were excellent picks this week. There were a number of others. I think that one of the points that we try to drive home in these videos, even though a lot of what we end up picking and a lot of what's being published is superhero stuff, there is a ton of other. There's, there's romance books, there's horror books, there's science fiction books, there's historical books, there's historical fiction books, there's all kinds of stuff, just like, fiction in the bookstore.
Yeah.
There is a wide variety of stuff to choose from in the comic book store too. It's not all capes and tights, but the stuff that is capes and tights that's written really well is excellent too. So no matter what you're interested in, obviously you're at least comic book curious because you're watching this video. There is a ton of stuff to choose from, and come on in and we'd love to give you more recommendations based on kind of your preferences. So stop on into the store. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. We're on social media. We've got a website. Most importantly, we've got a store here in downtown Mankato, Minnesota, and we would love to have you come in and check it out. So we'll be back next week with more picks, and until then, enjoy the reading.
Buy more Detective Comics.